Hello everyone. We are starting a free open lecture in our Discord. All our lectures are held weekly without breaks. If you, the viewer, want to conveniently ask questions online and get answers and efficiently join our lectures, you can find the link to Discord in our Telegram channel. To find out the schedule of the lectures, simply join our Telegram channel. Well, and also here are not only logs directly of this application in general, everything that some logs and logs, if there is anything to write through the screws, give you. Then I am truly amazed. No, you can definitely look and bold displays of running projects on Docker computers. Then again, one of the very few commands that does not use Docker this is from the tables of computers, and these are indeed those projects. That is it. It will display. Let's write. And here I have a project with the status wounded to config. There is indeed a configuration file pause. tfsp. In principle, I have already used this command several times based on Docker. Pause allows you to pause running containers. Again, the containers that we want to stop can be specified. If not specified, by default, all of the containers currently in the project will be paused. Docker Compose port, again, uses Docker port and allows you to get information about the ports associated with the containers. Let's write Docker Compose port. It requires 2 arguments. It is necessary to specify the service and which port in this service we are using. Therefore, we write, for example, app1 and port 8000. And here I see the address of the port that is connected to this port inside the service. Well, indeed, I wrote here that port 8000 is, as I have previously noted, in my Docker environment. For instance, it is connected to port 8000 on my device.
Want to become a great programmer? Subscribe to our Telegram channel.
The same can be done here for the specified port number 8000. But if, for example, you write something under a different port, such as 9000, it says that the connection is not found. Ports. It also displays the ports that are associated with the lineup. So, pull and push are commands for interacting with Docker Hub. That is, to download images from Docker Hub and upload images from our device to Docker Hub. Pull, accordingly, is from Docker Hub. Push is to Docker Hub. It works just like a straightforward Docker pull or Docker push, but the interaction here is not through images, but through services. The service is essentially the image we want to restart. Restarting, a container means it stops and starts again. There is a command called docker restart. However, you can also choose the service you want to restart and execute docker restart. It basically removes stopped containers of the service. For example, if I write docker compose up then docker compose ps, all containers have stopped, but they still exist. If I write docker container rm, it asks me to delete these containers. In essence, it's a straightforward process. If it deletes them, now I don't have those containers, run is used to execute a command inside a container. That is, there was somewhere. There is also run. But at the same time, a new container will be created, the command will run in it, and then the container will stop. On it, already successfully launched. Well, for example, docker compose -sign and main show. Here I have launched these two containers, and let's say nothing docker to temporarily pause ran. Which container I want to admit or select first, and your TFSP. And here I have constructing. Here that is a new. And separate container was built, this container here it launched, individually for instance. Here it is for me. If I write the same with a backpack option then, here no container was created. I went into container F1. You can see it by hash. It is written where it was terminated here also. TechTube. Here is the difference between these commands. The command, which is based, again, not on Docker a bit, that is, there is no Docker scale command. What does it allow to do? It allows you to create container replicas, that is, to duplicate them exactly as many as we need. Where can this be used? For example, in some processing. We have a container that performs a certain task. The task is usually resource intensive, CPU bound, the processor is under load, something is being computed, and the load on our application increases. In order to handle this load, we need to add a handler. Here, with the help of Docker, there is half a skill we can do it very easily and efficiently. Well, for instance, as an illustration, this of course will not work out. Is unlikely to work out successfully to do with applications. Ports. If it is a hypothetical fur coat scenario, compost body, and 1 is equal to 2, then here I have the first as if 2 was launched. It tries to create, but it says that the port is already in the hall. But if we had it here, give I here, let's say, I will effectively disable such potential problems. There were no launched everything. And let's say I want the first service once to instill and implement Docker computer skill. Name services. And how many? I want to do, let's say, and here I have created a total of 5 separate containers on one. So it worked. Here are 4 more. They can be seen here. I have here already. Again, a trainer continuation process on 1, and 1 more container down. Shared we all container applications on the topic. The situation is simply and purely just. Together we will launch 2 again. And the park still definitely needs to be opened and verified back. Now we have a park and they are working. This needs to be checked. The functionality that we will divide and allocate 8,000 returned. So start again already used. Starts a container that has already been created. Stop. Stops working. Container, both of these are based on Docker. TFSP. So Docker Compose Top. It allows you to display information about the processes running inside the container. And again, there is an equivalent in Docker, which is Docker Top. Docker Compose Top. And here I have basically, in essence, essentially the application manager. This is a manager. In general, as in plain sight, top right here, such a thing as power. This user ID is just this. Everything is displayed. The time it has been running is not shown. We want the application to work and which command it was started with. If, for example, I run something else here, docker compose exec, Let's say in the first container, I will use bash and do something, for example, Python 3, sit while true, and we do nothing. Yes and no, here I have a job that started. Ideally, it should be displayed now. Yes, I already have two tasks. One is the application itself, and the second is what I started. The time is displayed, by the way, for those commands that are running inside the container, not from its start. It went, and as for the composition, the time is 0, unpause. It was also used, it removes the container from pause, up. Again, it was used, it first creates the container and then starts it. And another command is docker compose wait, which allows waiting until one of the listed services is stopped. Again, there is docker wait. Well, here's an example. In this section, we are discussing the process of using Docker Compose, specifically focusing on the command docker compose bay. Here, we need to list the containers that are currently running. Let's say, hypothetically, that we are waiting until one of these containers stops running. At this point, I will open the terminal to execute the command docker compose down. This command will stop the container and wait for all processes to terminate completely. We are in a state of waiting, observing the system's response. So, he wrote additional commands to check the status. Now, let's consider a scenario where if the system crawls, and not just two more processes, I will proceed to terminate all operations. For me, if the system crawls, and that's all, it indicates that the process is not functioning as expected. So what should be done next? I crawl one if I'll stop right away. Without any hesitation, I waited there patiently to list it. And also if I wait for only one, cheek, and I'll stop two. Absolutely nothing will happen to me here in this situation since I didn't list about the yard because I was not informed at that time. Maybe for some wise elders he is indeed associated with TFSP. And let us say,
Want to become a great programmer? Subscribe to our Telegram channel.